So here we are out here for part one of the turbo build. All right, so I've gathered some more parts, and what we're doing is we're going ahead and installing the manifolds that I'm going to turn into turbo manifolds and the methods that I'm going to use to do that. So we had to get this thing jacked up, had to get the long tubes I had on there off, which I'm going to tell you right now, with the tubular K-member is nice, but it's still a pain in the butt to do. All right, so got that one out. The long tube anyway, and started installing this it is passenger side, my bad, header, and I have it firing down. So that way I can actually take it and curve from here and go to my V-band right there for my turbo inlet flange. And as you can see right here, the way it fits, it's gonna come around. It's gonna go to this guy. Originally I was gonna use a different flange, but I decided to use this because the V-band right here, it's gonna make it easier to adjust and actually turn the angle of the turbo that I need, because it can't actually be straight. It's gotta be on a 16-degree tilt. So that way it clears everything here and also clears the radiator fan with the turbine housing itself. Now originally what I was going to do is I was gonna weld these super fantastic V-bands on there. I was gonna cut that end off, but on this side so far, I see that it clears with the driver's side header flipped and firing down. So it's gonna actually clear everything all the way up and through. So I decided that I actually got a Walker flange coming, but it's just like this. And I'm just gonna use the 2-bolt. So instead of actually adding a flex coupler in there to allow for adjustment after heat cycles and stuff, the ball flange will actually allow for that and keep everything from having so much stress on it. And the one thing I will notate is I marked right there on that, I might actually have to make a small indentation right there on that, collector tube right there. So that way I can make sure I have plenty enough clearance. I don't have any issues there. So the whole idea behind that is a lot of people put flex couplers in their Y pipes and crossover pipes to accommodate for V-bands not lining up because of a heat cycling. You know, things do tend to change and stuff, but I've found that with the ball flange, you can kind of rotate it a little bit. You have a lot more give and a lot more play. So I'm going to use that instead of a flex section, and also it'll be able to support the weight of the turbo a lot better, because the turbo weighs right around 40 pounds, which that's very heavy. But with both headers supporting it, I think I'll be able to hold on to that weight just fine. And then I can just use one little bracket bolted to the timing cover or the block that's gonna keep the orientation of the turbo correct with the other V-band flange on the actual T4. So yeah, like I said, it's gonna come out down there, come around here, it's gonna curve in up to here, and then I'm gonna have a merge from the other side come into here as well, and that's also where my wastegate placement's gonna be. I also got a nice big box of different mandrel bends, a full exhaust mandrel bend kit that I got off of Amazon. I think it was like 90 bucks, something of the sort. And that is going to allow for me to also have slip fit pieces that I can slip fit together before I do any actual welding, and make sure that everything's gonna fit properly, and also have plenty of room to make adjustments to tack weld into place. Now the passenger side header, that's gonna be a little different. It's this kind of flange. It's just a 2-bolt. That's a 4 1/4 inch center to center hole location, but it's actually like an oval 2 to 2.5 inch. So I don't know if I'm gonna use a straight 2.5 inch flange to bolt to that, or I might, depending on how the orientation is when it's put in there, I might actually have to cut this one and put a V-band on if I can't get it to line up the way I want and clear things like the oil filter, power steering lines and stuff as well. So on the other side, it'll actually be mounted like this to where it's gonna fire straight out, which, I mean, I would prefer that, so that way I can get everything out of the engine bay and then basically take it and turn it back around and come in to make my crossover. So now that I have my turbo placement, my turbo angle for the clocking of the turbine housing set, I know that that header on this passenger side is going to fit, and I'll be able to use a ball flange on that. I'll be able to strictly just bolt everything up on that side, not use a V-band. And like I said, I might have to use a V-band on the other side and go that route, but I won't know until I get to that side. This is only part one. That's the actual passenger side using the driver's side header flipped. And here's another angle of it as well. I did just cap off the EGR, so it's not going to be in the way with anything. I just really hated to cut this header up because it is already ceramic coated, so it's going to actually reduce some engine bay heat that way. And that way I know that the actual welds on this are good, and it's still as strong as it would be. And that's where we're at so far. And like I said, I'm going to do a rundown of all the parts that I have as I go. I was going to do just a complete rundown of everything and go that route and be like, these are all the parts I have, this is what you need to scavenge. But I'd rather just do it as I go, so that way I myself will even know what parts are actually needed, what isn't, and what is essential, what's not, and what I actually used versus what I'm not. Now, I mean, your normal stuff that you're gonna have to get obviously is your wastegate, your boost controller, if you're gonna play and opt to use one, your boost gauge, your wideband, all those things. I would recommend getting a few O2 sensor bungs to weld in, so I did get a couple of those, and just things that you can do to go ahead and prepare yourself for doing this, that you're going to need versus what you think you're going to need. So far, some things have already changed for me, even just on one header install, so I might as well just show the things that I have and what I'm using. And this will work on stock manifolds. I just don't have them. I threw them away when I put the long tubes on the car, and now I wish I had them. But to be honest with you, I like these a lot better anyway. They're a lot nicer, and I'll be able to take a crossover and stuff and then probably have it coated the same way to have everything just match. So that's my plan. That's my goal, is to just make it, it's not going to be this show car or anything, but I want it to look nice when I pop the hood. So I want this all fabbed up before I drop everything out. And then when I paint the engine bay, paint the under the hood, paint everything in there, when I put it all together, it's just already going to fit. It's going to be nice. I don't have to worry about scarring, scratching anything up. And then it's just swap everything back in and start tuning on it and enjoy the car. Now, as far as, finding my turbo placement and stuff, I never really did get too far into this, but I just grabbed some 1-inch angle iron and cut it in 3-foot sections, cross to cross, and that'll hold the flange in place. And then I test fitted the flange with the turbo mounted, and I realized that I needed to be on a certain angle, certain degree axis on there, and it actually come out to being in the placement where I want it. It's going to be at 16 degrees. So now I know that when I do that, if I was using a flange that I had to actually weld up as an actual collector, then I would know I would need that 16-degree angle. But since I have this, and it's going to be able to articulate, I'll be able to put that angle on there and tie it in the way I want it. And then I'll be able to just take a bolt from, say, the alternator mounts or something of that sort, and make a bracket, like an L bracket, to come out and actually attach to the turbine housing or the compressor housing to keep that orientation from spinning, even though it's on a V-band with torquing and everything going, take off, launches, this and that, and it may clock the turbo position a little bit more. So that's just going to hold it actually in place. So that's where we're at so far, guys. So don't forget to like and subscribe for part number 2.